Today we're tackling something, well, something that probably dictates a huge chunk of your unspoken decisions. The pressure of what other people think. If you've ever felt just, paralyzed by the fear of judgment, that really intense feeling, then this deep dive is, I think it's going to change how you see that pressure. We're digging into a text that, honestly, it doesn't pull any punches. It makes this really sharp, provocative distinction between two ways people live in the world, what it calls the social animal versus the social slave. And this isn't just about labels. This is about identifying who is actually the owner of your life's timeline.
And that is absolutely our mission today. We want to synthesize this for you to give you some real clarity on social perception and, your own agency. And I'll say this now. If you really stay with us to the very end of this, you will get a profound insight into where your personal autonomy comes from, and more importantly, how to protect it. Our whole focus is on helping you see who is truly giving the commands in your life.
Okay, so let's jump in. Let's start with that classic excuse, that sort of verbal shield we all use when we pick conformity over our own conviction. You hear it everywhere, right? Well, we're social animals, so we have to watch what others think. It justifies so much compromise.
It's the ultimate rationalization, but the source material is, it's absolutely unforgiving on this point. It doesn't leave any room for comfort. It just immediately attacks that idea, calling it the most plausible excuse that losers bring to rationalize their cowardice.
Wow. Okay. Cowardice. That is an incredibly harsh word. It's almost inflammatory. Aren't people just trying to get along? Isn't some level of, acknowledging social norms necessary for society to even function?
That's a fair challenge. And yes, of course, the source isn't saying to ignore reality. The point is about the quality of your attention. The social animal is very aware of the social gaze. They see it. They gather that information. They might think, okay, if I launch this weird business idea, people might judge me. They might criticize me. That knowledge, that gaze should only ever be a reference point.
A reference point. So like an input, almost like market research or just, data. It informs the strategy, but it doesn't.
It doesn't define it. Exactly. And here's the absolute core of the distinction, the thing that separates the animal from the slave. That social awareness must never, ever become a command. The second it becomes a command that shuts down your own desires, that's when you lose your personal sovereignty.
Okay, let's break that down then. The path of the social slave. What does that look like on the inside? What's that internal world like?
The slave's whole process is driven by external fear. It's totally externalized. They see potential disapproval, and their reaction is immediate obedience. So an opportunity comes up, something they truly want, but their internal monologue gets hijacked. They run that fear script, oh, people will make fun of me, I'm scared, I shouldn't do it. The reaction is purely defensive. Reactive.
It sounds like a life lived constantly in retreat. They're not asking, what do I want?
No, they're asking, what will they allow me to want?
And the consequence of that.
Fundamental loss of autonomy. It's devastating. You basically outsource the CEO role of your own life. You might still do things, get things done, but it's all on a path that someone else or just this general social fear paved for you.
Okay, so let's flip to the other side of the coin. The social animal. They see the exact same risks, they hear the same potential criticism, but the outcome is completely different. The key to their internal dialogue.
The key is the hierarchy. The social animal is fully aware. They think, yeah, people might criticize this. This could look foolish, but they don't stop there. Their internal dialogue immediately pivots to prioritizing their own desire, their own drive. So their inner voice says something like, okay, I see the risk, I see the potential social cost, but my desire is more important. So I'm going to accept that risk and I will accept the responsibility that comes with it.
That last part is so crucial, isn't it? And the resulting responsibility. It's not just rebellion for the sake of it. It's an act of sovereignty. It's saying, I'm owning this choice, good or bad, because it came from my own compass.
Absolutely. And that willingness to stand on your own desire and accept the consequences is the very mechanism that maintains your autonomy. It's the exact moment where a reference point stays a reference and doesn't become a command.
So let's talk about the long-term price of not doing that. Because yielding to the command might feel safer in the moment, but the source says it's catastrophic over time.
It's a total loss of ownership. If you consistently let the social gaze be your commander, then the owner of your time, your energy, your life, well, it's not you anymore. The text puts it bluntly. The true owner becomes, the neighbor, Mr. Kim, or an anonymous, malicious commenter.
Which isn't literal, obviously. Mr. Kim just represents that abstract faceless fear of disapproval, the voice of the crowd inside your head.
Exactly. It's the embodiment of that fear. You end up living your life trying to please this vague, often nasty audience that you can never actually satisfy. Every time you make one of those fearful choices, you're just handing over power of attorney for your life to these, ghosts.
And there's a really dark irony here, too. If you abandon your desire to conform, people on the outside might actually see you as a good person. You're reliable, you're not a threat.
You check all the boxes. But the source points out that this external label of goodness it's bought at a horrific internal price. That constant denial of your own wants, it results in this core decay of the self. Your heart, it says, rots with emptiness and resentment.
Let's unpack that internal rot. How does that emptiness and resentment actually show up in someone's life? It's not just a philosophical idea.
It creates this deep, nagging bitterness. The social slave often feels like life just sucker punched them. They think, I did everything right. I was the good person. And then they look around and see people who broke the rules, who are thriving. And that breeds this intense resentment towards them. It leads to jealousy, passive aggression.
They become a spectator in their own life. And the emptiness comes from realizing they never even got to play the game they wanted to play.
Precisely. They traded real, authentic satisfaction for the temporary comfort of approval. And that comfort is always temporary. The goalposts always move.
So let's look at the reward of autonomy now. We've established the social animal prioritizes their own desire.
Right. And to hold the initiative in your life, that just fundamentally means your desire is always positioned ahead of the gaze of others. Your internal compass is set before you even start listening to the external feedback. It has to be. If you wait for everyone to agree before you move, you'll never move.
And what does the world call this person? We know they're not going to be called good.
No, absolutely not. The moment you prioritize your own path, the predictable social criticism is that you're selfish. That is the price of admission for a self-directed life.
If you're not willing to be called selfish by some people, you just can't be autonomous.
You can't. But while the world is busy labeling you, what's happening internally is the exact opposite of the slave's decay.
So what is happening inside?
Internally, it's all productive. It's evolution. It's resilience. While all that noise is going on outside, the individual is building, creating, learning. The text says, internally, I achieve and I evolve. You're trading external noise for real, tangible, personal growth.
So the animal accepts temporary sting of a negative label for the long-term reality of internal strength.
It's a perfect trade-off for real sovereignty. And this brings us to the ultimate verdict, the historical view. When we zoom out and look at the whole timeline of a life, which path actually wins?
Right. We've seen the short-term comfort versus the short-term friction. What about the long game?
When you look at the entire timeline of life, the social animal, the one who chose desire, responsibility, and evolution, they win. And it's not close. The source says they win overwhelmingly. I mean, just think about anyone who's ever made a real impact in any field. Science, art, business. History isn't a list of people who perfectly obeyed the rules set by their neighbors.
History is, by definition, written by the people who broke the expectations of their time.
Exactly. The source drives this home so hard. It says history doesn't record the people who followed the social gaze. It records those who broke that gaze and silently walked their own path. Autonomy isn't just a feel-good idea. It's the prerequisite for actually leaving a mark.
And that brings us right back to our core insight. The real difference isn't whether you see social pressure. We all do. It's whether that pressure is just a data point, a reference, or if it's your commanding officer.
And that command structure is everything. Prioritizing your real desire and accepting the full responsibility that comes with it, that's the only way to maintain your agency, your true self. Anything less is just handing your life over to the fear of what some anonymous person might think, and that only leads to emptiness.
The stakes are incredibly high when you look at it that way. It forces you to look at every single hesitation and ask, am I the owner here, or am I taking orders from the crowd? Am I living my story, or am I living the story of the fear of what they might say about me?
Which leaves us with this final thought, building on that historical record we just talked about. If giving up your deepest, most authentic desire makes you good in the eyes of others, whose history are you actually writing? Are you writing the history of your own evolution, your own achievements? Or are you just writing the history of the people who successfully judged you into conformity? So we ask you to really think about this. Are you willing to accept the external label of selfish in exchange for holding the exclusive, undeniable ownership of your own life story? That choice defines your entire timeline.